My name is Dr. Belkeis Altareb, and I'm joining you from Nafsology Psychology Center in JLT. For those of you who may not know, our center's name, Nafsology, comes from the Arabic word nafs, which means self, ego, psyche, or soul. And that you are likely aware that ology comes from the Greek study of self, ego, and psyche, hence nafsology. You'll see here, if you could click so that the title appears, please. If you scan the QR code, there will be a little bit of information about me as your presenter today. And so let's see if we can start this slideshow from the start. Okay. On the next slide, we have objectives of the webinar. All right, so here are the several objectives. I hope that at the end of this presentation, you will understand the importance of resiliency, be able to define resiliency, understand some of the dimensions and barriers to resilience, factors attributed to resilience, building blocks, practical tools in building resilience, and how we can foster resilience at work, schools, and communities, and some of the steps in building resilience. Next slide, please. Before we begin this slide, I'd like us to take a poll. Okay, so have you ever faced with a difficulty? Uh, uh, have you ever been faced with a difficult life challenge that you found difficult to manage? And so if you could please take that poll and submit it, and we will get the answers to that. And despite our human need for stability, our world is very unstable. Many people are not able to find jobs. Companies are laying off employees, unknown viruses that we have to manage, and we hear about wars, displacement, political crises, closed borders. And despite the upheaval, we must continue to do all of the necessary things to live, get up, feed our families, and sustain ourselves. So we are also bombarded with messages, many presenting opposing views. Is smoking cool, or does it cause lung cancer? Does social media enhance, or does it hurt our lives? Should parents befriend or discipline their children? Or when couples are unhappy, do they stay married for the children, or are they better off divorced? Does working outside the home enhance or hinder our children's development? And so there's a plethora of different questions and different challenges that people have to face. We are told many other messages from our parents, culture, societies, books, media, friends, etc. Global health crises, both physical and mental health conditions, are on the rise. If we can change the next slide, please. According to the World Health Organization, over 1 billion people are living with mental health conditions, with conditions such as depression, anxiety, and burnout, contributing to significant human and economic tolls in terms of time off work, disability, and healthcare costs incurred by insurance companies. In the words of John Kabat-Zinn, an expert and one of the leaders in mindfulness, you can't stop the waves, but you can learn to surf. So one of the things that we have to learn is, how is it that we ride the wave? What kinds of new skills do we have to develop in order to meet life's many challenges? Next slide, please. Resilience is the ability and the capacity of a person to adapt well in the face of adversity, trauma, tragedy, threats, or even significant sources of stress. It is a dynamic process in which biological, psychological, social, environmental factors enable an individual to regulate their mental health, despite adversity in any period of life. Anyone can acquire resilience at any time. So this idea of adapting and being able to bounce back. Next slide, please. So what is resilience? Truth and myth. Resilience is about recovering and growing stronger, and it is not about never struggling. Of course, resilience is we will struggle, but we will be able to recover from that and be able to grow stronger. Okay, next slide, please. Resilience is linked to the brain-body response to stress. We fight, flight, or freeze when we face a crisis or adverse situation. Repeated patterns of doing the same thing gets our nervous system used to responding similarly. However, the brain's ability to rewire itself and be shaped by different experiences allows us to learn different responses, hence neuroplasticity. Having a support network, friends, positive beliefs about self and the situation, and coping skills will buffer the stressor. With intentionality, resilience can be built. And I think this is going to be a common theme throughout today's presentation, is this idea that with intentions, we can develop new skills. Next slide, please. Here are the dimensions of resilience, very similar to the dimensions of health. We have emotional, managing emotions and stress responses. We have social, our support systems and communities that we surround ourselves with, spiritual, purpose, values, and meaning, cognitive, problem solving, reframing thoughts, and physical, sleep, nutrition, movement. And so these are different components of resilience, and we need all of them. And so sometimes if we're not thinking well, or we're having negative thoughts, that's going to influence just our overall well-being. And so in order for resilience to be at its best, we need to be able to have kind of our full mental health and health in check. Next slide, please. Here are some barriers to resilience: chronic stress and burnout, constant pressures without recovering will often deplete us. Negative self-talk, internal critic undermines confidence in problem solving. Isolation, lack of support system amplifies stress and struggle, and unrealistic expectations. Perfectionism creates additional pressures and disappointment. Now, one of the things that we have to constantly be aware of is that if we don't take care of not only the different dimensions of resilience, i.e. health, that we may have negative self-talk and not even be aware of it. So negative self-talk is kind of the voice that we hear inside of our heads, and how we frame things, how we look at particular situations, or even ourselves. If we're isolated and we don't have a support system, that is going to be a barrier to resilience. And so if we have unrealistic expectations, that too will be a barrier to resilience. So again, being mindful of, do I have some barriers to resilience? Let me kind of check those out. Okay, next slide, please. Factors attributing factors for resilience, positive attributing factors, and then we will go to the negative attributing factors. Let's start with the negative, because there's fewer negatives. So poor maternal health. So adversities in childhood. I mean, these seem like common sense: dysfunctional family dynamics, psychopathology in parents, poor schooling, absence of role models or mentors, culture of violence, wars, and natural disasters. All these would be negative attributing factors that would impact our resilience. Now, not to say, even if we had all of those, individuals still can be resilient. And we'll talk about how some of that can happen as well. But think about in our own backgrounds, were there any kind of negative attributing factors that maybe kind of influence our lack of resilience? And we may find some of those factors. And then we have positive contributing factors. And again, all of these seem to make sense. Active coping, cognitive flexibility, compartmentalization, purposeful and being organized, productivity, socially approachable, good physical health, social skills, intelligence, secure attachment, and bonding. So all of these factors will contribute to one's resilience. Next slide, please. Building blocks of resilience, our self-awareness. Do we notice our triggers? Are we aware of our own emotions? Um, are we understanding our own behavioral patterns? For many people, no, not really. And if people are under chronic stress, then they may not be self-aware. Are we taking care of ourselves? Do we prioritize sleep, exercise, mindfulness, nutrition? Perhaps not. If people are burned out, they may not be taking care of themselves. Connection, cultivate supportive relationships and community bonds. One of the things that I'm constantly told is that there's just no time, right? From work and often family responsibilities. So you have work responsibility, family responsibilities. When or how do we take care of ourselves? And how do we connect in the community and build these supportive relationships? Because relationships often take time. And so perspective, are we able to reframe our challenges as opportunities for growth? Again, this is a mindset that we see a challenge as an opportunity rather than something that is burdensome to us. And adaptability, embrace change with flexibility and openness rather than seeing change as being detrimental to us. Next slide, please. And so here are some practical tools. Some of you may already do some of these things, or you can practice. Some you can do more of it. So mindfulness practices, grounding, meditation, and breathing are good exercises. Cognitive reframing. Think about what is within my control. What is within my control is the way I think, what I feel, what I do. My behaviors are in my control. What's kind of differentiating what is in my control and what's not in my control. And a lot is not in our control, and we just kind of leave that aside. So gratitude practice, daily practice builds optimism, being thankful for the things that we have in our life, for the people that we have in our life, builds optimism. And think about your stress toolkit. It could be journaling, it could be exercise, it could be various creative outlets such as painting or playing music, listening to music. Everyone will have a different stress toolkit. A recent University of Oxford study of 46,000 UK workers showed that the best way to beat stress and boost productivity was volunteering and charity work, which is not included in one of these practical skills, but it could be part of your stress toolkit. And these methods were more effective than traditional mindfulness or stress reduction exercises conducted in isolation, because some of these practices are individual practices. And the thing about volunteering and charity work is that it's often done not only with others, but for others. And we know that when we do things for others, what's the natural kind of response is that people feel better. And so kind of give that a thought that perhaps in your stress toolkit, you may have volunteering or doing some kind of charity work. Slide 15, or the next slide, please. Yeah, okay. Many of us know that we saw resilience in action. Now, we see resilience in action in many places around us. However, during the pandemic, healthcare workers showed remarkable resilience by creating peer support networks, practicing self-compassion, finding meaning in the service that they were doing, prioritizing rest whenever it was possible for them. And the lesson was that resilience isn't about going at things alone. It is about using every resource available, kind of reaching out into your communities, and supporting each other. So that was one of the lessons learned in the pandemic, during the pandemic. And as we look around the world, we see that pandemic healthcare workers, healthcare and mental health care workers who are on the ground in Gaza and other parts of the world where there are disasters, people pulling together to face adversity, makes individuals more resilient. Next slide, please. So in whatever setting we are in, whether it be workplace, schools, communities, we are promoting balance, teaching coping skills in schools, and fostering connections in our communities. Locally, psychologists through Minata, some of you might have been part of the Minata conference, Middle East, North Africa Trauma Association, had a huge conference last week. Brain Spotting Middle East, Healing Gaza, and CAFE, which are local organizations, to name a few initiatives, are coming together to teach affected people in war-torn regions on how to build resilience. So this is at a local level, people coming together to help other people kind of develop the skills necessary to build resilience. Next slide, please. All right, an activity for us. If we could take a few minutes to think of a time you overcame a challenge. What helped you bounce back? So we'll give it a couple of minutes. Think about a time, what helped you bounce back, and I invite you to share your reflection in the chat if you feel that you're able to share that. Sometimes we forget the power of other people and the importance of, with sports or activities comes building connections with other people. And so, yeah, very, very important. Do charity work, prayers, gratitude, journaling, even small things. Yeah, food, yes. Your room, yes. Your space, safety, learning a new skill, yes. Okay, very nice. Okay, yes. All different ways to bounce back from a challenge. All right. You may find that you need further assistance. Okay. So here, building resilience in steps. Start small, practice daily. Build your personal resilience toolkit. Support others around you, and resilience grows with consistency. You keep at it, and sometimes some people will say, well, it didn't work. Well, yeah, you just, it takes time, it takes patience, and it takes us not to give up. So start small and keep at it. You may try different things that work. You may try things that if they don't work, then try something different. Not everyone is the same. So what goes in your own resilience kit, you may want to begin to think about. And some of you already may know what goes in your resilience kit. But one of the things that when I work with clients, I ask them to start to put together what the resilience kit is. It could be activities, but it also could be something very small, especially for people who are suffering from anxiety. It could be fidgety toys. At the Minata, last week's Minata conference, there was a resilience toolkit that was assembled with different fidget and sensory objects. So think about what grounds you, and then start making your resilience kit. So in my resilience kit, I have it here. I have mints, I have teas, various kinds of teas. I have lotion, I have a soothing balm, I have musk, I have markers, I have clay, and I will often show the people that I work with. So this is my kit. I'll take it out at different times, and this is what grounds me. It may be something completely different for people. So let it be something that works for you. So the items in my toolkit not only activate my senses, but it helps ground me in different kinds of ways. And so I invite people to begin to put their toolkit together so that it will help them in times of crises. All right. All right, so here, if you feel like you need further assistance, here are just some resources, local resources. At least the numbers are local resources. most of them available 24/7. If you or the people that you work with need these resources, feel free to reach out to those. I put mindfulness apps because it is a resource. It does make it makes mental health available, more accessible. Uh, However, there are thousands of apps and on the market with each with its own usability, cost, and effectiveness. And I've only listed those because these are common apps, not because I try them or because I think they're effective. And so please note that no app replaces a therapist. It may augment your therapy, but it doesn't replace it. You will want to check out, if any, work for you, because you may find after just a couple of questions, know that it doesn't work for you. And so, don't use it. Although apps may provide mental health support to greater numbers of people, there is not enough research yet to conclude their efficacy. So often there are subscription fees for access, and people start off using the apps, but then it drops off. And so, accountability is not there on the apps. And so, again, some people might use this and they think that they're great. That's wonderful if it's helping them. I've had clients tell me that they use ChatGPT and it's wonderful. And again, I'm of the belief that if something is working, then fine. But will it ever replace therapy? My view is that it won't. That there's not the accountability. And ChatGPT, we've known that ChatGPT will give wrong information. So we have to be careful. But I'm not saying that we should cross it off completely because people are using it and they're finding it helpful. And if people are finding it helpful, then okay, we just have to be a bit careful. And then there's books and podcasts on resiliency and mental health. I've just listed just a few that you might find helpful there. All right. Okay. The quote by Mary Holloway is a reminder that each person is responsible for figuring out what he or she needs to do to bounce back from difficult situations in life circumstances. Mary is a speaker, writer, and resilience coach and founder of Resilience Cafe on Facebook. She also is a creator of the Boom Bounce Wow Resilience Method. And Mary empowers women to reach down and find their inner warrior that can help her take back her life and emerge better, stronger, happier, and surprisingly thankful for the experience. And so resilience is knowing that you're the only one who has the power and responsibility to pick yourself up. And so again, sometimes we think there's someone out there that is going to help us, that's going to save us. But ultimately, the only person that can do that is ourselves, and the change will have to come within us. And so, again, kind of think about that in your own journey. And then, if we could switch the slide, please. As you develop the skills to face life's many obstacles on your way to building resilience, try to lift another person in the process. The act of service would strengthen human connection, purpose, and gratitude. And that is the end of my presentation. If you could just send the resources that I've used for gathering the information. What I would say is that if you're finding it difficult to build resilience, please do not suffer alone. Reach out to the available resources kind of around you, or reach out to one of the counseling centers for further assistance. Okay, thank you. How do we know that we need help? We may think that what we're doing is working, but we find that people are in our environment, maybe families, employers, people around us are saying, hey, something's off, what's going on? And so we will try different things to help ourselves, and we may think it's working. But typically, when all of those things that we're trying don't work, that it could be that we're coming late to work, and our employer tells us, our supervisor tells us, you've been late to work. Is everything okay? And you're thinking, yeah, everything's fine. I'm just, I'm just late. but you're not connecting your lateness to maybe staying up at night or partying the night before or insomnia. And we'll have another presentation on insomnia soon. One of my colleagues will be giving a presentation on insomnia. So there could be we may not think that there's a problem, but when our life is being impacted in negative ways, then it's a problem. We may not think it's a problem, but other people are telling us it's a problem. And so it could be communication, or you're fighting with people, or you just don't feel good. So that's typically how we know that we need help. And again, if we acknowledge that change happens within us, we have to be aware that there's a problem in order for us to seek out the help. And we may ignore signs of help or people telling us that we need help. We may ignore them for different reasons. And if you've had a difficult childhood, if there was, if you've had conflict in your life, think of all those factors that are kind of attributing to not having resilience. If any of those are kind of in your background, then it would be a good idea to talk with someone about how that impacted your life. I mean, if you just take the adverse childhood experience kind of as just one category, individuals who score high, there's something called ACE, adverse childhood experience. Individuals who score higher on this ACE questionnaire tend to have both physical and mental health problems later on in life. And so you may think this is your normal, but you may want to talk to somebody. I hope that makes sense, Mohammed. Any other questions? Serena, it's called the Adverse Childhood Experience Questionnaire. If you're interested in taking that questionnaire, I can have the clinic send that to you if you're interested. It's called an ACE score, and it comes from Adverse Childhood Experience. And there's a lot of research on this. Yeah. Okay. Okay, I think, where can we have this? Yeah, where can we have this? Yeah, so if you're interested in this ACE questionnaire, then I can have the clinic send it to you. But please, when you get your score, it will be important for you to talk about the results with a clinician, because you don't want to see a high score and then you go into panic as to what it means. Okay? All right. Okay. If there are no other questions, I'm going to well, we can end the webinar. And again, if you ever need help in building your resilience, you can look to us, or you can look to there's a plethora of counseling centers and available online resources, etc., that can help guide you as well. Thank you so much. Have a great Sunday.